Hello from Earlham College and the Joseph Moore Museum. We are so excited about the solar eclipse that's going to happen here in April 2024. Solar eclipses are really rare special events, and they give us a chance to mark history and make observations. And Annalisa is going to take us down to the archives to tell us about Joseph Moore's observations of a past solar eclipse.
Hi, we're here in the Earlham College archives where we've been researching the records and notes of Joseph Moore. He was the founder of the museum, and he spent 2 years at Harvard from 1859 to 1861. We did find a description of an eclipse, a total solar eclipse that we think that he didn't witness it. He may be just describing someone else's witnessing of it. He describes in great detail what he saw, and he has little drawings. So in the note here, it says eclipse half gone, and you'll see just a tiny little circle of the sun half covered. And then, he continues with lots of little drawings that show the progress. He talks about spectroscopic observations and little protuberances on the side that appeared as notches that really gave him a sense maybe of the edge of the moon and the geography of the moon. We are so excited to have seen this and to share this experience that he had in the 19th century. We think it was probably an eclipse maybe of July 17th, 1860 might be the one that he is describing here, and we look forward to having the same experience and exploration on April 8th.
Thanks, Annalisa, for telling us about Joseph Moore and his notes regarding the total solar eclipse. Total eclipses are really rare, and human beings exist at a really special time with regard to them. Long ago, when the Earth was formed, our moon was much closer. In fact, every time it went around the Earth, it would entirely black out the sun. So if human beings had been around at that time, we would have seen a total solar eclipse many, many times every single year. So they weren't really that special. But the moon's been drifting away to the point where now it's just about the exact same size as the sun in the sky. And when the moon just happens to be at the exact same spot as the sun in the sky, that's totality. And it only happens once every 200 or 300 years on any given spot on Earth. So I feel really lucky to be here at Earlham, where this hasn't happened since the mid-1800s. In fact, the moon is going to continue to drift away, and there will be a point in the future where the moon is smaller than the sun in the sky, and always will be. And that'll be the last point where we'll ever get to see a total solar eclipse. So we're really lucky to be around right now.
Humans aren't the only ones that change their behavior during eclipses. From studies going back 2,400 years ago, we have observations of animals changing their behavior, plants changing their behavior, so plants opening and closing their blossoms during a total eclipse. In 1932, a researcher in the Boston area recruited 100 participants to record what animals were doing during an eclipse that year. And in 2017, we have over 2,500 observations of what animals and plants were doing during an eclipse. Really neat to see how animals that are normally awake during the day, when the light went away and the temperature got cooler, those animals behaved as if it were nighttime. A lot of them from a zoo study went to their enclosures for the night, went to go inside into their den or into their buildings. In some cases, if they couldn't get in, they then experienced or showed behaviors that looked like anxiety behaviors. A Komodo dragon went and erratically ran around its enclosure until the eclipse was over, until the sunlight returned. For some animals, we have a question. Are animals that are more like prey animals, ones that have more anxiety responses during an eclipse, versus predatory animals that might be more comfortable with fluctuations in temperature and light? There was a big study looking at weather radar data that saw that across a very large swath of totality, birds stopped moving. It was like they descended and roosted during that time of darkness. And then when it was over, they became active again. And what's really neat is that we were able to see that the strength of the response matched very closely the amount of light. So if it was a place that had 75% total eclipse, the amount of behavior, the amount of activity was about 75% of what you would expect on a non-eclipse day. So on Eclipse Day, I'm going to be looking around to see what are other animals and even plants doing during the eclipse. And I'll be recording it through the Joseph Moore Museum website and iNaturalist, and I hope that you'll join me and record your own observations.